I really want to invest in cryptocurrency, but every time I look at CoinMarketCap, it looks like it's in a different language. I just don't know what to do. Also, all these acronyms everywhere, I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they are. BTC, BCH, BCC, ABC, FUD. I mean, what do they mean? I've stood by watching all my friends get rich, and now I'm afraid I'm gonna die broke. Can somebody explain what I need to know? Don't worry there, Billy. I got your back with today's video of the top 10 things you need to know in cryptocurrency. Now, I do know, guys, that there are many experts out there that already know all this stuff and frankly just don't need any help.
It's only been trading for about 6 months publicly.
I get paid every day. I'm not really exactly too sure what a public key is,
but I thought a little refresher course might be good for everybody. And we're going to start out with some basic stuff, but by the end, I think we're going to talk about some subjects that probably apply to even more advanced members of the audience. Let's kick it off real simple here with how do I buy Bitcoin safely and cheaply? There are many different places where you can buy Bitcoins, but I'm going to go ahead and recommend, especially to newer members of our audience, to buy places with very high volume that you know are credible places to buy. For the sake of simplicity, I'd probably recommend Coinbase if you're trying to buy Bitcoin, but there are other good ones out there like Bitstamp, which has been a staple for the price of Bitcoin for quite some time, or Bitfinex, or Gemini, or there are a bunch of different exchanges out there. You can't go wrong with the legit ones, the big ones. But what about if I heard about a good deal buying some cheap coins over at superlegitcoinbuying.com?
That's right, Billy. Why pay more when you can save some dough? Get discounted Bitcoin on foreign exchanges, find sellers on Craigslist, buy mining contracts on eBay, or meet your friendly neighborhood dealer in a dark alley. It's fine, Billy. Don't worry about it.
No, don't do it. Stick to the major exchanges. If you're looking for a good place to buy Bitcoins, I have a link in the description below to Coin Central, which is a news site that I own part of. I'd recommend checking it out. All right, let's go ahead and move on to tip number 2. But Bitcoins are really expensive. How am I supposed to buy a whole one when it's $12,000?
Forget about small pieces, Billy. Find a cheap coin. Say, this one's less than a penny. That could be worth a whole dollar someday.
That just makes sense. I want to own a whole one. No, stop that. No, incorrect. That is not how you should be viewing things. Look, I know it feels better to have one whole something rather than a decimal place. And when we think about it in more traditional terms, it makes sense. Like, would you rather have $1 or 98 cents? Change sucks, so obviously a dollar. Not to mention it's a little bit more. So when people look at Bitcoin and they think, oh, I can't afford a whole one, I'd rather just buy part, I see where they're coming from. But this is the thing. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 0.1 or 0.86. Those things are all irrelevant. When buying a cryptocurrency, the most important thing is to understand how many units are in circulation or exist, and then how much you're buying relative to that. So let's say, for example, Bitcoin and Ripple. Well, one Ripple is probably around $1.50 and one Bitcoin's around $12,000. So obviously a Bitcoin is much more valuable than an XRP. But here's the thing, Bitcoin has only 21 million of these coins that will ever exist, whereas XRP has 100 billion. So you want to think about the unit in relation to the total supply. This is called unit bias. People like to have one of something. Now, I will say this, because so many people do believe in it, it does actually end up kind of existing. I saw a good Reddit post where people showed growth over a period of time by the price of coins. People love the cheapest and hottest altcoins around, but those are really not that's really not what's important. What's important is, what is the currency doing? How does it function? What are its fundamentals? And be focused on those things rather than trying to buy one whole of something that isn't even a physical thing. Tip number 3, and I'm praying that this will somehow curtail the amount of people that ask me this question over and over again, because it is killing me on the inside, guys. It's killing me. Stop asking me this. Hey dog, I was wondering where I can buy some LMNOP. I really feel like the tech is there. Also the marketing, they've already worked themselves into popular culture and media. I don't know how to buy every coin or where to buy every coin, but I'm going to show you how. Head over to coinmarketcap.com, click the search currencies button, and put in your favorite, definitely not a shitcoin coin, like for example, Jetcoin.
They're mad that I'm driving cars, I'm flying jets.
Okay, so Jetcoin, 16 cents a coin, $10,000 of volume a day. This is definitely a hot coin. But here's what you do. You click markets, And then the markets button will show you where the volume is, and it'll show you the price at that market. So you can see which is the best one to trade it on, at what price, and that way you know where to go if you want to buy or sell if you want to get the best price. And additionally, which exchange to be on if you want to be able to buy it, because you'll know where the volume's actually happening. Now with this one, there's only really one exchange that even has it, so you kind of have to go to that one if you want to buy or sell Jetcoin. If you see someone asking me or the Discord chat about this, please just link them to this video, because I just can't do it anymore. For number 4, let's talk about security. Now, there are so many things to say about security, but I really want to try and limit the scope of this down to the couple most important things. But mister, where should I keep my coins once I buy them?
Don't fool about, Billy. Just leave them in your exchange wallet.
Well, golly gee, isn't that kind of risky?
Oh, Billy, you're so naive. Moving them would incur transfer fees. There's no sense in wasting money.
Okay, thanks. Do not keep your money on exchanges if you can avoid it. Now, for some of the smaller coins, you don't always have a great option. You can't keep them on a device like a Trezor or a Nano Ledger, which I would strongly recommend. If you have Bitcoin and you don't have one of those two things, you're being an idiot. You don't want to be the guy storing his private keys in his email.
My YouTube email is linked to where I keep all of my private keys.
The way that the Trezor or Nano Ledger devices work is critical to people who are trying to hold any reasonable amount of money in cryptocurrency. The way that it works is you have a PIN that only you know that you can use to go in and access your funds. If someone steals your Trezor, they can't get the money because they won't know the PIN and they won't be able to get the money. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, they can't get it, but how do I get it back? You're going to get a recovery seed, which will have a 20-word phrase or string of 20 words that when entered into a new Trezor will give you access back to your private keys. When it comes to security, I'm a little more careful than most. I'm sure you guys can all understand why.
Crypto, there's some very dangerous people, so don't drop certain names.
He might have to learn the hard way.
What I've done is opened a series of safety deposit boxes at different locations, taken my recovery seed, split it into multiple pieces of paper, and I have a couple different copies of it, and placed them at different ones so that if anyone ever got compromised, they'd only have half of my recovery seed and they wouldn't know where the other half is. If one gets destroyed, I have a fresh copy set in different boxes, and so I'm never really in any kind of danger as far as losing my recovery seed. Also, for my Bitcoins themselves, I don't like to keep a lot in my Trezor that I have on me. I like to keep most of them in a Trezor that's also in another safety deposit box. So the majority of my cryptocurrency by far I would be unable to access in person here anyway. In all seriousness, there are dangerous people out there in the world, and you should do your best to prevent a central point of failure when it comes to your funds. So find places to keep it, split up the recovery seeds, have copies, and make sure to keep your money safe if it's an amount of money that really matters to you. If you have your money on exchange, which you shouldn't do, but if you're forced to because there aren't good places to hold it, or maybe the network transferring ability is down for some of the smaller ones, or whatever is happening, and for some reason you're forced to have money on exchange, always have 2FA. There is no excuse for not setting up 2FA. It takes 5 minutes. Use Google Authenticator and not Authy, okay? Google Authenticator. And set up 2FA so that your funds are safe. The reason that Authy isn't good is because it uses your mobile number, and your mobile number is not a security measure that works. You need to have something not linked to a phone number. I don't want to get too much into the tech side of things, but just believe me, don't link it to your phone number, link it to Google Authenticator. Number 5 is that the market caps that you see for the total amount of value of a coin are not real and don't really matter that much at all. That's also not to say that they all don't matter equally. Some do matter a lot more than others. For example, the market cap of Bitcoin is much more accurate than a lot of other coins because of extremely high volume and the fact that the majority of the coins are in circulation. So that price will be much more accurate than smaller coins. To understand how accurate a coin's market cap is, you want to understand how much volume is being traded, as well as what's the total amount of coins that are in circulation. So for example, a coin like Bitcoin with 12 billion-ish volume in the last day or so is going to be a much more legit price than something with a very small amount of volume like NEM, which only had 134 million. The volume matters because if you want to sell a lot, there would be many people looking to buy it, and many trades are happening constantly, so it would allow more room for you to buy or sell before the price has movement. Also, understand circulating supply versus total supply. And the best example for this is Ripple. As you can see, the total market cap for Ripple is around 60 billion. But the thing is, that's only counting the circulating supply. Only 39 billion of 100 billion Ripple are actually in circulation. So this number is a little bit misleading because it doesn't take into account all of the other coins that are locked up by the founders. The less circulating supply there is relative to the total supply, the higher the price will drive on those individual units. However, the riskier it is because if some of the total supply reaches the marketplace, it will have a bad effect on the value of each unit because now there are more people trying to sell and the same amount of people trying to buy. So understand the difference between these two things and also understand the impact this can have on the value of your coins in the future. Number 6, the market cap, while not an accurate indicator of the total value of the coins, does give you a little insight into how risky an investment is. Generally speaking, the larger the market cap of the coin, the less likely we're going to see that go down to dust because it has more infrastructure, usually more developers, usually more people interested, more people supporting it, and more people holding the currency. So the bigger the coin in general, the safer it is. Now, that does not apply for every coin, so don't think that if something is in the top 10, that means it's for sure going to succeed. Not the case. It's just a safer bet. That also means on the flip side, though, that you have less upside. Some of these really small coins can 10x, 100x. That can happen, even though we like to joke about it here on the channel. So if you're trying to find something that could certainly fail but might have big upside, look for some smaller market cap coins. But if you want something to be a more solid fundamental value investment, I'd recommend going for something more in the top 10. This brings us to number 7. Do you have to pay taxes on your cryptocurrency profit? I made all this money, but do I really have to pay Uncle Sam?
Fuck it. You know what they say about governments, Billy.
Governments are pussies, bro.
You're gonna have to pay your taxes. That's just the way that it is. I can't tell you about any other countries. I only know the rules right here. Now, an important tax change happened last year where anytime you take one cryptocurrency and exchange it for another, in past years that was not counted as a realized gain, so you didn't have to pay tax on that, and you only had to pay tax once you turned it into USD. The reason that's important is because of short-term capital gains versus long-term capital gains. Long-term capital gains have lower tax rates, so you actually make more money by holding something for over a year. This new rule makes it so if you sell a bunch of your Bitcoin for Monero, then that transaction is now a realized gain and you have to pay tax on it if the value increases. So basically, it's going to get a lot more confusing this year. But you know what? I'm going to say that even though I hate taxes, I'm going to pay my fair share, and I think you guys should too. I know that we don't like the government in this space in general, but the thing is, by paying our fair share and showing the government that this is a way that the government can increase their revenue, I think they're more likely to get behind it. I'm not saying that I like the idea that we have to do that, but remember, governments can act very irrationally, and if they just came out and banned cryptocurrency, which is not 0%, by the way, that is something that could potentially happen. Don't think it's likely, but it could happen, and I think we don't want that to be the case. We want to show the government that this is not something that's just for criminals. This can be used for legitimate business activity and pay our part so that the government feels like this is something that they want to support. I know that might anger some people in the comments, but I come from poker. That's where I spent the last 10 years, playing in poker tournaments and playing online poker. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, the government just banned my job. They said, you know what? You can't offer poker to Americans anymore. And they just banned the 3 biggest poker sites, took hundreds of millions of dollars, and I lost my job overnight and I had to move countries in order to work. Okay, that happened to me. That was a real thing. It's funny now because I've moved over into other pursuits, but overnight my job became illegal because the government just decided to do it. They can absolutely do irrational stuff. And so I want us to try and do our best to promote cryptocurrency in a positive way, and then hopefully that won't be the case. Number 8, I want to talk about the difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Now, over the last couple of years, we've seen increased volume in people wanting Bitcoin transactions. And what that's done because of the demand of Bitcoin, because of the price going up, because there are more people that want transfers, then what happens is that the entire network slows down and transfers get more expensive. So that means that people want to use Bitcoin more as a currency, that gets hampered because they can't transfer money without it being slow and expensive. There are different ways to address this problem, but the 2 biggest schools of thought were separate. One was we need to make it faster and cheaper by making the technology better. We need to find ways to make these transactions better on the network. And another one was we need to make the block sizes bigger so that more transactions can go in each block. And there are upsides to both of these things, but I do feel like the better play is to try and innovate with the technology. That's what Bitcoin is doing. In late August, they implemented SegWit, which is a way to try and make transactions cheaper. And they're also currently in the works of getting the Lightning Network working, which will make transactions much quicker and way cheaper. And these are things that needed to happen because Bitcoin's prices were getting ridiculous. That's actually one thing I don't like from the real Bitcoin purists. It's like, Bitcoin wasn't supposed to be a currency. It's a store of value, guys. Well, what happened to 4 years ago when everyone was talking about it as a currency? You can't just change what it's supposed to be to fit your agenda. So I certainly think that Bitcoin should be both a currency and a store of value. Bitcoin Cash, which is spearheaded by Roger Ver and Yihan Wu, aims more to just increase the block size as needed. So I think they went from 1 up to 8 megabytes per block as a way to try and fix the problem. There's no doubt that increasing block size actually does fix some of these problems, but it's not a sustainable way over time to operate. You can't just make the blocks bigger every time. Think about how large the ledger, the public ledger becomes, and you can't just have that as a way to try and fix the problem. Now, there was a proposed kind of meet in the middle option, which was SegWit 2x, which was going to be a block size increase of 2x as well as activating SegWit, but it eventually fell apart. One of the things I like the least about Bitcoin Cash is just the way that some of the leaders operate. Some of the things that Roger Ver has said or done have been shady at best or just very disrespectful to other people. So I want to eventually do a video on that. I think I've already said enough on this subject, but I want you to understand what happened and why we have Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. There are also two Ethereums, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, but what happened here was a little bit different. This one's a little more complex, but the DAO, which was a very popular Ethereum project, which raised over $100 million in Ether to support it, was hacked, and essentially the hacker was going to be able to get all of the Ethereum from the site eventually. The amount of Ether in question was about 15% of the entire supply. So if this money was taken and then sold, it could cause a massive drop in the price, but then also it might create instability within the community to believe in Ethereum. It was eventually decided that Ethereum would be hard forked. The original Ethereum would now be known as Ethereum Classic, and the new currency would be known as Ethereum. This way, they could prevent people from losing the money, as the hacker would only have the Ethereum Classic and not the Ethereum, which would become the new standard and what everyone would use on the network. You might be asking yourself, why is this important? We took away money from a hacker. Well, sure, it's all well and good that the hacker doesn't get as much money as he would have otherwise, but it raises some ideological questions about what we should be doing. Are we supposed to bail out large projects when they don't have their code written correctly or don't have their money in the right accounts to keep themselves safe? Are we supposed to bail them out? Is the currency supposed to step in and save people? It's actually very similar to kind of what happened with banks where they got bailed out by the federal government. You know, when companies are going to go under, I kind of feel like you just have to let it fail, and that's how the market corrects itself. You know, I'm not saying hackers should get the money, but it comes down to what's better, the ideology or in effect what happens. Actually, I'm interested to know what you guys think. What do you think about the Ethereum versus Ethereum Classic fork? Let me know in the comments below. Doug, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I just have one last question. I see so many triangles and candlesticks and charts and graphs. What's it all mean? How do I know when to buy, when to sell? How does a seasoned day trading veteran like yourself know what to do? I keep it real here on the channel. I don't day trade. I don't really believe in technical analysis. Most of it anyway. Maybe there's some small things that could slightly help you. I think a lot of it is just bullshit, people drawing lines and eventually finding ones that fit. So if you're asking me about moving averages and different things, what they mean and what you should buy or sell, I can't tell you anything because I don't know, and I also don't really believe in it. I like to buy things that I believe have good potential long-term to succeed. I like to buy things when I feel like they're undervalued relative to what they should be. I like to short things that seem like complete centralized bullshit. If you're new, you're not going to time the market correctly. I know everyone thinks they're an expert and has their theory on what's going on, But while you're busy waiting to try and time the market and figure out when to buy, you're missing potential returns you can be getting every day. I'm not saying you can't figure out some things. There are certainly some patterns to some extent that you could maybe use for a small amount of gain, particularly if you're using things like machine learning. But on average, people are way less smart than they think they are. So figure out things that you like and buy them if you want to buy them, and don't if you don't. Don't start trying to wait for the exact perfect price, because while you're waiting, you're missing out on those potential returns. Standard disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. All investments have risk, and this channel is for information and entertainment. Maybe even more entertainment. I hope. We got some information in today. That's going to do it for me. I hope you guys learned something. And if you want to join the team, hit the subscribe button. We got tons of content coming up. I'm excited for the future, and I'll see you guys soon.